Greetings from the French Quarter. My name is Daphne, and I am a tour guide here in the French Quarter, and I work for Haunted History Tours. Now, of the repertoire of tours that I actually do for the company, I also do the Voodoo tour. So I've been asked to speak a little bit about voodoo dolls, the realities, the misconceptions, and to give you a little background about what they actually mean. So we do have to start with the basics and structure of the religion. And on a brief scale, this is a religio-magical belief system that originated in the African Congo, and they estimate between 7,000 and 17,000 years ago, anthropologically speaking, of course. Now, this religion did make its way here to Haiti and other parts of the world by way of the slave trade. Now, as far as the religious structure itself, it is a monotheistic religion, one God that loves us infinitely, but God does not care about our daily drama. God's got other things bigger and better to handle. And so there's a set of divine intercessors that comes between us and God. In African voodoo, they're called Orisha or Nkizi. In Haitian voodoo, they're Loa. And in New Orleans voodoo, they're Orisha or Loa, because there's definitely a blending of those two sources as well as others. Now, as far as New Orleans voodoo goes, it is a little bit different. We kind of do everything by our own drummer, obviously. So, of course, there's a blending of African voodoo, Haitian voodoo, Native American customs local to the area, as well as a pepper of Catholicism. Because when voodoo first came here, when the slaves first came here, everybody had to be Catholic. And so, learning the Catholic religion, they did apply what they knew of their own religion to learn this new one. And so what you'll have in a lot of different voodoo situations, you will have people that are not only voodoo, they are also Catholic, because this kind of belief structure seemed to move around as well. Now, a lot of these voodoo practitioners will equate different of the Loa, these divine spirits that help us in our life, with Catholic saints. And so oftentimes you will find a lot of that influence as well. Now, as far as the misconception goes, voodoo dolls, basically according to the movies, say that you can stick a pin in a doll and kill someone. Let's be absolutely real here, okay? If I could stick a pin in a doll, none of my exes or my friends' exes would currently be living today. That's the reality of it. We as human beings, we make some of the dumbest decisions without even properly thinking about it, only to come back later and say, oops, my bad. My bad doesn't cover it when you've killed someone. So according to this religion, God would never even allow us to have that kind of power. So basically the reality is, the misconception about the pins actually came from European puppet magic. Now, this was something that was kind of thrown in together, turned out to be very entertaining. It also turned out to cause a lot of fear in people's minds. And as we all know, that is something that runs rampant when people are misinformed about the religions that fall under the non-Christian construct. So this is something absolutely common. And unfortunately, because most people decide to ignore it, they think, oh, it's bad, it's evil, they don't want to find out any differently. Now, as far as voodoo dolls, the actual purpose is a focus for an intent or idea. The idea of sticking pins does not fall anywhere in the idea of voodoo whatsoever. Now, basically, it's having the doll. These voodoo dolls, they do represent a Loa or Orisha directly, the colors, the decorations, and such. And oftentimes, a voodoo practitioner may make a doll that also includes some type of decoration that indicates what you're trying to work for or towards. And so, for example, if you're trying to make some money, and you would work maybe with Papa Legba, who handles prosperity oftentimes. And so this doll would be red and black, because those are Papa Legba's colors, and or red, black, and white in New Orleans voodoo. And there would be a veve symbol. Now the veve represents the Loa or Orisha. This symbol generally also indicates what this Loa or Orisha handles in their affairs. So for Papa Legba, who is the Loa at the crossroads, there would be a cross directly in the center of his symbol, which would indicate, yes, that's what he handles. Now, this would not be your general Christian cross. This is an equal-sided cross that represents the crossroads. Now, this symbol does appear in most religions throughout the world, and it does generally indicate the same thing, the crossroads, the space between here and whatever the afterlife or other plane that religion deals with. At any rate, you might also decorate this with gold coins or something very rich because you want to attract that wealth. Oftentimes, voodoo practitioners will also shred paper money and stuff the doll with that, along with different herbs and different roots and such. And sometimes these dolls are personalized to the actual person. So you may involve things like someone's hair, perhaps teeth, whatever they're available that's personal that they may have on hand. No, they're not going to rip a tooth out and put it in there. But if this is something that you have on hand, you have a baby tooth, whatever, then this would be something you'd put in. You may also include jewelry, because if you're trying to attract some kind of wealth, then you want to put that out there as well. Now, as far as these voodoo dolls, again, it's just a religious tool, a focus for an intent or idea. Again, religious tools are used through every religion because we as humans are a little scatterbrained, and sometimes we don't know how to accurately focus our intent or energy. So that's really the reality of what voodoo dolls are. As much as we wish they might work, they could do on TV, unfortunately, that's just definitely not the case. Now, one thing I do want to tell you, I have a little story that I'd like to share with you. Now, I have lived in the city of New Orleans off and on for most of my life, and I've become very close with this city. And even though I am myself not solidly a voodoo practitioner, I am an eclectic pagan, I do draw from many different sources, I do have a great deal and a very deep respect for the religion of voodoo. And so when I was training for the cemetery tour, it just so happens that we got to visit the tomb of Marie Laveau. And at this point, it was still allowed where you could leave offerings. Even though the church has always kind of frowned upon that, I would leave a handful of change or something every time I went. Well, this one day I show up, I'm training, I have no change in my pockets, I have nothing. I have my rings and I have my keys. And so I think, oh my goodness, what have I done? I don't have anything to leave for Marie. And so I took off my favorite ring, which was a tri-colored gold ring. It was yellow rose and the white gold. And I took this off, and I placed it at her tomb, and I said, Marie, I hope that this finds its way to someone who needs it. I feel confident that you'll do this for me. I apologize for having nothing else. And thank you very much for blessing our lives. And I walk away, and I go home, and I think, wow, I hope that was something that was acceptable. I do have a great deal of respect for the history of Marie Laveau. And then it kind of just, left my mind. I thought, okay, this is good. 3 days later, my son comes tromping into the house. He's covered in mud. I have no idea where this mud came from. But under his arm, he has the most beautiful little kitten. Now, this kitten is tri-colored, white, gold and orange, and black. But the craziest thing of all is that my beautiful little cat, on the tip of her black tail, has what is very distinctly a gold ring, as if someone placed it right upon her tail. And I have no doubt in my mind that that beautiful little creature came from our illustrious voodoo queen, Marie Laveau. Now, here's my little Lala, and she's definitely not pleased with me right now. She's not exactly a snuggly kitty, but I wanted to show you. So, there is the tip of her tail. She says, no, don't mess with me. I don't like love. She's not cooperating. Okay, here she is. And there's her little ring on her tail, you see? Magic and voodoo are definitely a real thing here in New Orleans. And hopefully you come down and visit. And if you need a tour, come to Haunted History Tours. I'm sure you'll see me about. Again, my name is Daphne, and I hope you have a wonderful Halloween, and I hope that I've helped you learn a little bit about voodoo dolls, the reality again. And if you have any questions, tonight, unfortunately I'm working, so I'm out there beating the trenches with tours, but I will be able to answer questions, and I'm sure that information will be given to you. So, thank you very much. Have a great night.